Hello there, you beautiful soul, and welcome back to another Culture Talk segment with Rebecca Munoz, your host of Cultured Society. Today, I am so excited because I have a special guest that I have actually known for many years, but we went through a phase of separation. And I always say that there are times where we go through separation and phases without certain people in our lives. And it's almost as though there's this gravitational pull that brings us to the people that need to be a part of our lives. And I remember when I first met this beautiful person, it was when I first moved to Chicago. It was actually the very first week that I was in Chicago, and I was introduced to Crystal Ocegueda. And her and I were both not from Chicago. We had migrated from different cities, and we had transferred from a different city to Chicago to go to an art school. And at that time, I was in a very different phase of my life. And I felt like every person that was coming into my life was meant to be a part of my experience, to teach me, to elevate me, to inspire me, to be a part of my life, to hold my hand, and to be there with me through different phases that just were going to allow me to really elevate. And all the guests that are a part of these conversations are people that are definitely making waves on this planet, that are very unique, that are creative, that are inspiring, and that are definitely just changing the narrative of what it is to be a human being on this planet that we call planet Earth, right? So I would love to go in by introducing Crystal together, and then we're going to go into some questions, the questions that I have been asking all of my guests, but it seems as though, even though they're the same questions, we know that every single person is so individual and so unique. So these conversations end up being very different. So I really I invite you to have an open mind and to embrace the conversations that are just meant to inspire you and to allow you to move into the gifts that you were created to fulfill on this earth. So Crystal is a local artist, a local Chicago artist, passionate about all things art. She draws inspiration from her emotions, which drive the colors she uses, the shapes her hands develop, and the clarity of the objects she creates. The fundamentals driving her visions come partly from the creative side of her corporate retail experience, from working in apparel product development for most of her career. Crystal's experience in textile print design is expressed and translated through the beautiful and vibrant art she creates. These last 10 years have propelled her to a whole new level or a whole new world of technical skills and design. There is so much gratitude for the constraints that have come through her experience in the world of corporate retail as it continues to drive creativity and artistic freedom into her work. So, Crystal, I am so honored and so inspired by your work. And I just want to thank you for taking the time and accepting my invitation to be a part of these conversations. It seems as though I haven't, well, it seems as though I just saw you yesterday, but we haven't seen each other in such a long time. And it's such an honor for you to be a part of this space and to be able to, have a conversation about the work that really drives you every single day. So thank you for that.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel kind of humbled and a little embarrassed because I'm like, really? What do I have to talk about? But, honestly, Becky, I'm just looking at you here in this moment and in your space, and doing what you're doing is inspiring within itself. You look incredible. I feel super proud of your journey. I know we've had a few conversations prior to this, and, it's funny because I feel like even though we've separated, in the few conversations that we have, I feel like, oh my God, we seem to be journeying in the same path or very similar paths. So far apart, but still together. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you. I mean, there is definitely so much importance in us, going on our own individual journeys, sometimes without the people that we thought that were going to be a part of our life through every phase of our life. But like I said, it's always one of those things where everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and what's meant to be is always. And I remember thinking when we lived life together in Chicago that
Yeah.
like I always, there was a part of me that always knew that you were going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, and I didn't know how that was going to unfold, but I knew at some point we would come back together, and so here we are, and I'm
Here
so
we are,
excited. So
podcasting.
yeah, so and there's not a lot of people that know who you are, but I know that there's going to be so much of you that is going to be seen in this time moving forward. And so for the people that don't know who you are and have never seen your work, I would love for you to explain or just give us a little, yeah, a little explanation of what type of artist that you consider yourself to be.
Ha. I would say I'm a contemporary artist. Just to give you a little background on my journey, obviously we both went to design school. So creativity and art was always a part of our lives, or passion, whatever you want to call it. Um, I feel like this path of like painting, and it's not just painting, I find different mediums that I like to explore and, sort of, it's an emotional process, really. Like, how do I feel when I'm doing this? Do I like it? Does it cause me stress? Are all the kinds of questions that I ask myself. But painting actually happened because I was just doing it for fun, and I bought my new place. Now it's been like 4 or 5 years ago, but my neighbor happened to come through and she was like, "Oh my God, what is this painting? Where did you get it?" And I was like, "Oh, I did it on the floor by myself. Like, it's mine. I did it." And so she actually owns a salon in Chicago, which I go to because I love the way she cuts my hair. It's actually Nicole Beck Hair Salon. But it's funny because I always tell her name's Sarah. I'm like, "Sarah, you're literally like a muse. You find people who are artistic and then you bring them to your salon and you put together these experiences for the city to sort of take a part of." And that's what she did. She was like, "Do you want to be my next artist in the salon?" I was like, "What do you mean your next artist?" She's like, "Well, I always put up art and then I have an event." She's like, "I've had a few artists already come through and they've seen some really great things happen afterwards." She's like, "I'd love for you to be." And I had never done anything like that before. I was only painting for myself at that point. And I was like, "Why not? What do I have to lose?" So I ended up putting together about 33 pieces, I want to say, in like 2 months. And mind you, I have a full time job. So it was a big challenge. I kind of put together a bunch of stuff, different styles, things that inspired me. In retrospect, I think, you know, I probably should have put a more cohesive collection together. But I think I was just exploring what my true style was, what I liked and didn't like to do. And I kind of just discovered that through that process. Long story short, we had the events, we had tons of people, and I think I sold like 30 out of the 33. She said it was the most successful art show she had had to date, thank God. And so, yeah, that's basically where my journey started. Um, do I hope that my art has impact on people? I hope it does because, to me, art is introspective, if that's a word. Uh,
Yes.
me, and my English is not so very good. But I think it gives you a moment to sort of, I think you look at the art and you reflect upon it, and you reflect upon it in your own life, in your own experiences, based on your own emotions. So I hope that when people look at my art, they see that. But I know we were talking about this earlier, was my art is very reflective of who I am as an individual. Um, so I'm a pretty happy girl, pretty chill, pretty laid back, but I love color. I think that's the one thing that I would love people to take away from my art is all the color. Color just makes you happy. It makes me happy. And that's usually what I'm led by.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you said that it is, art is a very introspective, it's almost like a meditative practice. And
Totally.
there's so many ways to incorporate meditative practices or different healing modalities. And I found that a lot of artists use that craft or that that way of expression in order for them to go into a meditative state
Right.
where you can pretty much just you visualize and you are able to create what you're visualizing, and that's an artistry in itself to be able
It
to
is.
visually like conceptualize something and actually put it on paper through writing or through color, different mediums, and that's such a beautiful thing. So have you always known that you were artistic even before you
Yes,
yeah.
always. You know, and I apologize for the negativeness that I'm about to bring to this conversation, but I wasn't a particularly like talented kid when it came to like, book smart or super athletic. I really didn't have any of those supreme talents, right? But I never really got good grades in school. And but the one thing that I think I always knew I could count on was art. Like when you're in kindergarten through sixth grade, they have like the award ceremonies, and everybody's like, oh, for the person who went to school every single day and never had a sick day, you get a trophy. And for the person who's most sporty, you get a trophy. I was the one who always got the little art badge made from polymer clay that said art. I was like, it wasn't a trophy, but I still got recognized. And that was my thing throughout. Like, even in high school, I was big in pottery. I was recognized as artist of the month in pottery. Like, somehow I always find a way to be extremely creative. At some point in my journey, as a kid, you have that pressure of like, oh my God, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I was always like, well, I'm not that smart. So, not a lot of options. But, yeah, I think I was like, yeah, it's got to be a creative field. So fashion was, something that I was really into at that time, and I was like, you know what, this is going to be my path. And I actually have never regretted that decision, not once. And a lot of people would say, like think about, our little immigrant Mexican parents who are like, what are you gonna do with art? Like nobody makes money after that. You know what I'm saying? And they're looking at you like, oh no, this child's like, what's happening? But I did it, and I've been able to, I don't know, I feel blessed. I don't have a lot, but I feel so lucky that I've come this far. And, going to college was definitely the best experience I've ever had. And it's brought me a lot of fortune. So I'm happy about that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm glad that you said that because there's been quite a bit of artists that I've talked to that have the same experience, especially coming from a multicultural background, because a lot of people think that you can't make money off of your gift, your natural giftings,
Right.
things that we are naturally drawn to. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation because everyone that I'm talking to right now is operating in their giftings and are actually getting compensated for it. And there's such a misconception that you have to, do something, you have to exchange your time for money and doing something that doesn't fulfill you. That's not what we are called to do. We are called to fulfill a purpose that actually allows us to express our giftings, and it's more than just exchanging your time for money and gaining riches doing something that you don't love. Like what's the point of life, right? What's the point of living in
Right.
that? Like we should definitely be compensated for the natural giftings that we have. And so with that being said, I'm actually going to go into the questions that I've asked every single person, and I think that this question is very important because although we are all so uniquely designed, we can come together and have a collective conversation regardless of what belief systems, philosophies, experiences, religious backgrounds, denominations, like just color, right? Everything that separates us actually really brings us together. We're a part of one body, and
Yeah.
it's really important for us to embrace and to be open to different philosophies and experiences and ideals. So, with that being said, Crystal, what is your life's philosophy?
You did send a pre-questionnaire and I read it and I was like, what the F am I going to say with this one? Right, philosophy, geez. You know, there's a lot that you just said, and there's a lot I was thinking as you were saying it. You know, I don't consider myself somebody who views my life purpose as this is the grand scheme and picture of my entire life. This is the journey I'm going to run. I like to take things moment by moment, day by day, opportunity by opportunity, right? Like I am not a 10-year planner. I'm more of a, hey, this year, what am I going to do? Right. And I like to leave it up to the earth to sort of open up these doors or windows or whatever you want to call them. And then I like to decide like what is my path. And I like to throw shit out there too, right? You know, apply to things and I do stuff and I try new things and I ask questions. And if an opportunity presents itself, I go for it. And I say, you know what? This could cause major change in my life, but if this is my path, it's going to happen. And if it isn't, I'm no better or worse off than I was before. So that is technically my philosophy. And I would say number two, especially with everything that's happening in the world lately, I find myself always saying, you know, lead with love, lead with compassion.
Amen.
That is going to be my life philosophy. I think it's always been that way, but it's been more prevalent 2020/2021 and ongoing. How can I affect every little daily thing by just leading my immediate response with love or compassion? Right? So if it's me driving on the freeway and some guy wanting to merge in and it's pretty tight, I'm going to effing brake for that guy and let him in because you know what? Maybe that situation will make his day, which in turn will make my day. It's good karma. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
mean, I tell this to Miguel all the time. And for those of you who don't know, that is my amazing husband. I tell him all the time because we know Miguelito is like sweet and gentle and funny as heck, but he does have a little bit of a road rage side, right? That's probably the Gemini in him. And somebody will cut him off, and automatically he wants to like beep and like speed up. And I'm like, calm yourself, son. Let's bring him back a notch, right? Like, you don't know who's in that car. You don't know the cycles that are roaming around the city of Chicago, which we do know there's a lot of cycles out there. What if the guy has a gun and starts shooting at us and then I happen to die and then you're going to sit there in full regret? I'm like, this is the moment where you can decide to change that situation. Just let it go. I'm here next to you. Your daughter's in the back seat. We have a good life. Just let it go, man. It's not worth it. Right? So lead with love, lead with compassion. That's my
Oh,
philosophy.
bingo.
Dramatic.
Yes. No, that's you definitely like hit it right on the nail because that's exactly what life is all about. And literally, we can remove all the religion, we can move all the different belief systems, we can remove all the separation. And when we do lead with love and compassion, that's really all we need. In fact, we would live in this much better world if everybody believed that leading by love and compassion is going to fulfill a greater purpose because everybody is just in the moment, right? Not worrying about what else is going on, what's going to happen tomorrow, because at any given moment, any second of the day, our lives could be taken just like that.
Yeah, and you know what? I've realized. I hate to say this because I'm very proud of my community, my country, very patriotic person. But I feel like we live in a society, a very selfish society. You know, we only think about ourselves and our rights and what we deserve, and what everything is about me, we. Like, can we just step back and think about our neighbor?
Yes.
Is it really that hard? Can we show a little respect and love for the people around us? Like for the humanity. Let's look at each other as humanity. As I'm a person, you're a person, he's a person, they're a person, we're all people. Like just think of yourselves as that. That little word unifies us. So lead with love, lead with compassion, as cheesy as it sounds.
Oh, it's not cheesy at all. It's the truth, and it's so real. And how would you say that your philosophy has evolved over the years? Because I'm sure there have been so many changes in your life that have really allowed your perspective to expand. So how would you say that's changed?
Well, I would say that, I don't, like I said, you know what? I don't think that, I think I've always been more of a love, geared person. Like I've always, I'm always been a social butterfly, extreme extrovert at all costs. I love people. I've always said that, so that's always been my nature. But I feel like it isn't until recently where I've really just focused on how can I be selfless? How can I be more selfless? Right? Even in the little things, just little tiny things. How can I be more selfless? How can I make decision that's a little less selfish? So I think that's, again, 2020, I think it's impacted everybody in a different way. But for me, that's been the biggest thing. And, it's not easy. Again, we come from a culture where, you're always worrying about the people around you and what are people going to say, right? My mom used to say that to me all the time. Watch what you're doing because everybody's watching and it's going to come back to me. And why would you do that? What would people say? And what's funny is, for a long time, when you're little, you sort of take on what your parents say and then, you move on through life. And then one day you start going through the process of self discovery. Excuse me. And then you realize that not everything your parents say is necessarily what you believe, right? And for a long time, I remember thinking, like, no, my life should be led by what I want, what makes me happy, by my personal choices and decisions and the consequences of my decisions, whether good or bad. I want to know that I made them for me, right? So now I'm finding myself in a crossroad of what my parents taught me to always think about what other people are thinking, and to my new philosophy of, I want to make sure that I'm living for me. You know, my favorite movie, Barbara Streisand, Jeff Bridges, and Lauren Bacall. It's The Mirror Has Two Faces. And there's a scene in that movie where, Lauren Bacall, who's Barbara Streisand's mom in the movie, she's saying that Mr. Jenkins is always courting her in the elevator, and she's so gorgeous. And she's like, why don't you go out with him? And she's like, how would it look? She's like, what do you mean? She's like, the mom going on dates while the daughter is single and at home. And Barbara Streisand says the most iconic thing, which for me, like burned in my brain. And she says, Mom, who's looking? When she said that to me, I was like, whoa, like moment of whoa, right? Like, who's looking? Why are we worried about what people will say or what they're looking at? Who cares? But as time has passed, I've realized that it's a fine balance, right? How do we combine those two learnings into something better, right? Like, let's consider the people around us and how our actions affect them, but let's make sure that we're also living our lives based on our experiences, our passions, without hurting the rest of society, right? It's not an easy answer, it's not an easy solution, but it's something we should consider. Let's consider both sides. Let's consider myself. Let's consider the people around us. So I think that's, I should probably write that down. I'm going to forget. No. Um, somebody taking notes? No. But yeah, I think that's going to be my thing, 2021.
Man, there is so much truth in that statement. And you know what? It comes with different levels of experience. I know firsthand that you have gone through different phases of your life. And you said it earlier about how your mom, because we live in a society, and it's not just the Mexican culture, although it is very prominent in our culture, but it's everywhere. Like, what are people going to say? What are people going to think? And it's like we're always kind of tiptoeing and even like walking on eggshells because we think that we're going to hurt somebody if we do certain things. But it's so important to listen to your own inner guide, because
Yeah.
everybody has a different DNA code. Everybody has a specific purpose, and it like purpose And another reason why we're having this conversation, because it looks so different for everybody, and everybody's life is going to unfold so differently. But it's so important for us to be mindful about what we're doing, that it's not in a way that's going to hurt people, but it's going to impact people in a way for them to be inspired to live in their own personal truth,
Right.
without worrying about all the negativity that comes along with you speaking and living in your truth. How has your upbringing and circle of influence impacted the way that you live and think today?
You know what, Becky, as you're talking about, all of this, I can't help it but think, I grew up in a community, in a very heavy Hispanic community, right?
Mhm.
Milwaukee South Side. And I know a lot of you out there are probably thinking, like, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, aren't there just Norwegians in that area? No, there's a whole lot of Latin community over there. It's wonderful. Um, but as I transitioned to Chicago, I have very little Latin community friends, but all of my friends are from a different culture, right? So we always called each other the United Nations, because it was myself, it was Ange, my beautiful Ange Garris, who's Greek. There's Lisa Bunn, who's Cambodian. And then we have Val, who is Albanian. And the list goes on. Like, we have so many friends from different, Bosnian, Polish, blah, blah, blah. It just goes on. And the funny thing is, I think we all found each other because even though we're from different cultures, we're literally grew up with the same upbringing, right?
Yes, yes.
And I think it's impacted all of us the same, like our life philosophies, the way we've transitioned from being like crazy college girls going out to drink, to transitioning into, being a wife and being a mother. We all have so many things in common, especially in the way that we think we want to raise our kids, or, the home remedies that we give them, when they're sick. It's wonderful. I actually have totally forgotten what your question was, but I just wanted to say that. Culture girl, don't get me started on that topic.
I mean, you basically answered the question. How has that impacted the way that you think and live today?
Yeah,
Because it is.
you're right.
Yeah, and it's so cool because, like I said earlier, how it's this gravitational pull that brings us into this pool of people that really are aligned with who we are. And even though we're very different, right, we're still so similar, and we can find commonalities. We can definitely find common ground. Because I remember when I lived in Chicago, we were all very close. I remember we used to do culture Sundays. We would find a restaurant. Do you remember that?
Remember? Okay, what was that one day? We would like hit up Pilsen because we need a little bit of that Latin culture. We'd go to Chinatown, right? Oh my God, I
Yeah,
remember those days. Those were
yeah.
some good days.
Yeah, and even like living when you were living in Rogers Park, and I was living with you for a little bit, at Devon Street, Little India, and
Little India, I haven't been there in so long, basically since I moved away from Rogers Park. But I think about it all the time because their fucking Indian food is so spicy.
yeah,
I would say, listen, lady, can I please get mild? And it would still be spicy. No, I meant mild, like mild, like this shit is hot. And I like spicy food, but they're serious about their spice over there. But the
no,
food was amazing. I remember going to Little India and thinking, holy shit, like I literally stepped into a whole new country. It's crazy how cities can do that, right? Even when we
yes,
would go like La Villita in Chicago, which is 26th Street, it's like you hear like the record, stores playing some super Mexican music, and you're like, dang, I'm home. I'm home. Somebody bring me a taco. Oh, it's great. I'm telling you, this is one of the reasons I can never leave this city. For a long time, I'd be like 5 years in, I'd be like, oh, at some point I'll get this city out of my system and I'll move somewhere else. I never said that I would move back to Wisconsin, though. That's one thing that I don't think I've ever considered doing, not because I don't love it. It just isn't me anymore. But I 5 years in, I was like, oh, I'll grow out of this city and I'll move somewhere else. 10 years in, oh, I still haven't gotten it out of my system. I'll move away someday. It's just crazy. And here I am, like 20 years later, and I'm still amazed at this city. I still go through the streets of this crazy ass city, and I'm like, fuck, I am so lucky. This is the greatest place in the world, minus the snow, Avi. But if it was summertime here all the time, it would be overpopulated,
Totally.
right? I
So
mean, you have ocean, lake,
it looks
beach.
like action.
Yeah, it looks like an ocean, but it's not. Anyway, yeah, I just love this place so much.
No, yeah, and it's awesome to have experienced that city for as long as I did because coming from a small town, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't consider 100,000 people a small town, but it's a very different dynamic here. A lot of nature, a lot of open land, and people that are natives to New Mexico hardly ever leave. And so I was actually my situation was very unique because coming from a Mexican family and then being the youngest of four and transitioning to a city like Chicago to experience a melting pot of cultures and then to be introduced or to gravitate to somebody like you, right? There's nobody. I don't feel like things happen by accident, right? And I got
Yeah.
to experience a lot of the culture, a lot of different experiences with you and with our, very unique blend of individuals that came together. And, that circle of influence really inspired me to level up in my artistry and in the things that I was created to do. And so, do you believe that your artistry or who you are as a person infects our society with positivity? And you talked about that earlier, but I just because I know that you don't do your artistry or your painting full time, but what you do as a career, it really is a reflection of who you are as a person. So how do you operate in your corporate environment as well as like your artistry to have that positive impact?
Well, interesting. I think from my art perspective, I would say, gosh, I hope I can affect and influence the world. But obviously, I'm just this little tiny Mexican girl in Chicago, right? But maybe someday, who knows? If I actually had a moment on my Instagram where somebody messaged me and was saying, like, I love your art, I love your page, it inspires me every day. And I'm like, whoa, like that one person, that makes a huge difference in how you feel about what you're doing, um, why you do it. So awesome, right? My corporate job, which I actually really, really love. I know people think like, wow, I've actually had somebody say, like, I've never met somebody so passionate about their corporate everyday job. But I love what I do, one, because I get to travel a lot and I love other cultures, which is why I live in the city. I am big into other cultures. I love going to China. I love going all over Asia. I've gotten to travel to Colombia and Europe and, so many different places. And for me, God, I couldn't have asked for a bigger blessing in a career because I get to experience the people and the culture. And that's my thing. When I'm out there, I want to eat the street food, right? Like, that's what I want to do. I want to eat the street food. I want to go to the local bar and sing some Asian karaoke. I don't know, but that's what I want to do, right? Um, and the second part of that is my job is product development, right? So it's still very much creative, right? I get to be involved in the products that go out into the world. Something that I had some effect on in the process of retail goes out into somebody's hands and they purchase it and fall in love with it, and maybe they'll return it. I don't know. But the point is that I have a little bit of an impact. Like, how many people can say something that they create is out there in the world and strangers have it in their hands? Not a lot. And that is huge. It's huge because I feel this small. So, yeah, it's great.
It's funny that you say that you are a little speck in this planet, right? Where there's like billions of people. Yet there are a lot of people on this planet that don't want to be seen because they're not doing what they're called to do. And the fact that you're operating every single day with that desire and that inspiration and that positivity, even though you think you're a speck, you're actually a lot bigger than you think you are, because there are not a lot of people that are operating in purpose. And this is the reason why we have these conversations, is because when you have that desire and you go out, because I know your personality, and you're the type of personality that blends in with a lot of different types of personalities. You
Right.
stand out like a bright light, because there are a lot of people that kind of go into their shell, and they don't want to be seen because they think that they're just basic. My friend Shar from LA that I just interviewed the other day, she's like, it's so hard to see myself this way, the way that you see me, because I just feel so basic. And I'm like, you're not basic. You're far from basic. I will tell
I
you that.
love that. I love that. Shar, you're
I was
far from basic.
no, and we are far from basic. We're definitely that speck of light that shines really, really bright. And I just encourage you to continue to operate in that perspective, because you definitely are making a difference, and people remember you. People really do.
You know, I want to say that saying that I feel like I'm a tiny little speck in the grand scheme of the world, I don't think that has to have a negative undertone, right? Because we all are a part of each other and a part of a bigger picture. So
Mhm.
my little tiny contribution to the world will have a cyclical, which is the word I use, effect
Yeah.
on the people that I'm surrounded by, right? So, yeah, I'm this tiny, but I'm like part of a big process and hopefully a bigger picture. So, I like being small.
Absolutely. Well, how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to your own craft?
Oh gosh, relevant. That's such a tricky word, right? Like in my mind, I automatically want to say like fuck relevant, right? I don't know what it is. I don't care, honey. Don't bring it to me, right? But it's less about being relevant and more about just making sure that what I'm doing isn't causing me stress. I'm trying to focus myself on my health more because I feel like that's one area of my life where I probably should do better. And as I get older, I find myself being more anxious prone, or when you're young you're so carefree and fearless and you walk these crazy streets thinking like no bullets can hit you, but as you get older and you have a family, it's like other things you're considering, everything brings you some kind of level of fear. And so I think what I do with my art, I make sure that when I'm doing it, I'm actually happy. When I'm doing it, I'm in the mindset to do it, and that I'm not forcing myself to do something because of something, because of a job or somebody's, whatever the reason may be. I'm making sure that it makes me feel good. So I think it's for me, my art is less about being relevant and more about doing something that really makes me happy.
Mm, yes, and that actually makes you very relevant and unique, because you're not being influenced by, although it is important for us to surround ourselves in an environment where the environments do influence us in a positive way, where it's not bringing out the negativity. And sometimes that negativity is just information for us to do something different. But I talked about tuning in and listening to your own inner guide and allowing yourself to be influenced by that. So, what you're creating is actually your own vision versus doing something that is being influenced by what other people are doing. And that does make you relevant and very unique in your own craft. And that's a very beautiful thing, because I could, like, when I look at your art, I don't see anybody else. I see your vision, and I see a reflection of you.
That's awesome. And, thank you. I'm so glad that you said that. I think this conversation is definitely therapeutic for me, at least. So thank you, Becky. But I can't say that I'm not constantly feeding off of other artists. Absolutely. Like everybody around you should inspire you in some way. Um, I don't know. I feel like my art is just, it's never a planned thing. It's a moment where I'm like, I feel like painting. I just start putting, paint strokes on the canvas, and each stroke leads into something else. And then I create this piece. and I step back and I look at it and I'm like, what is it making me feel? And then I find balance or try and create more balance with it. And then I'm like, okay, it's done. Let me sign it. Hopefully someone will buy it. Because I spent money on the page and the canvas. No. But it's, I don't know, it's fun. I enjoy it. And hopefully people, when they tune into this podcast, will buy my art and feel the same way.
Yes, and you will definitely be able to connect with Crystal and her art on the links below this video when it is posted. So you will have the opportunity to see all the creativity and the beautiful crafts that she creates. Aside from painting, what practices do you implement to stay grounded and divinely connected to your creator?
Mm. Okay, so obviously in our re-encountered conversations that we've been having, I mentioned that I'm starting this process of connecting and really starting to learn more about planetary alignments, my zodiac, my Chinese zodiac. So, I'm a really big fan of that Instagram. What is it called? Moon Omens.
Yes.
Right? Oh my God, amazing. If you guys don't follow them, you should. And
Yes.
the reason is because one, they always have these little messages that just put you in the right mood the minute you read it, right? Like it's for those of you who don't understand planetary alignments and the zodiac and all of that stuff, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because what we're getting from this isn't like magic. It's not like, you know, a portal into the future. You're not going to get that. What I do get from it is a way to breathe a little better in the morning or to find myself feeling grateful for the sun today or the little flecks of snow that look so pretty through my windows, right? Like I find myself grateful for, the home that I live in or my comfy couch. Like it just puts you in a different mental space. And because I feel like I have been very like anxiety prone lately, it just helps me with all of that. So I've definitely been finding time to connect with my spirituality. I am a believer in God. I always say this, culturally Catholic, it's Catholicism is ingrained in my culture and I love that, but I consider myself, less of a, scripture by scripture Bible, reading person and more of the essence of what that means, the essence of being a good human, of being a good neighbor, of not murdering somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like just the basics, right? So I, I've definitely shifted in the last year or so into connecting more with my spirituality, understanding who I am, who I was born to be. We recently read my numerology. My numerology number is uno, which means I was born to be a leader. So I'm trying to like take that information and say, okay, if I was born to be a leader, if I was born to have a presence, like how do I affect my immediate world in that sense? So I think it's just great tools to take you through the day and be a better person.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you have experience, because oftentimes people are so scared to just allow themselves to try different things, different modalities, different, even embracing different belief systems and not necessarily adopting them as your own personal truth, but understanding that those belief systems are out there and that you could take little nuggets of each, religion, belief system, all different types of things, even culture. I love to travel for that reason because you can adopt and just like learn new things that can make sense to the things that you're already doing. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it really is about being a good human being, about loving, empathizing, being compassionate, understanding,
Respect. Absolutely.
respectful. Yes.
I
I mean,
100% agree with that. I think there's just so much to take from other people, other people's upbringings, their culture, I'm going to say this out loud. Like, I remember when I was younger, my parents would always say, like, don't ever marry a Muslim. What the heck did they know about Muslims? They didn't. Right. And now my best friend is the most amazing, wonderful human being I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, wow, ignorance really is prevalent in the world. And just getting to know somebody who is Muslim, who you didn't know before, and understanding their culture and their upbringing, you realize they're not that different. There's nothing scary about them. They're amazing, wonderful people, just like you are, just like I am, just like everyone else around you. And I challenge people to go out there and make friends, based on the stigmas that maybe you grow up thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is so important to leave the outer perimeters of the boxes that we live in as a society. And when you step outside of that box, you recognize that this world is so abundant. It's so beautiful. It is filled with so much creativity, so much diversity, and so many people
I
that
love
live.
that word.
I love diversity, and this is one of the reasons that Cultured Society was inspired. It actually started when I lived in Chicago, and it just evolved over the years through my own personal evolution and experiences. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet so many different types of people from different walks of life, ages, genders, nationalities, colors, and it's like we're all the same. We're
We're
all
all the same. Absolutely.
we are all the same. So what words of wisdom would you give to those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Hmm. Well, first, before we get into that question, I'm going to say if my parents are watching, they are amazing people. They are not bad people. They just didn't understand that culture.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just put it out there, mom, dad. I love you. I know you're awesome. They are actually a big reason why I'm so culturally passionate,
Mhm.
I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah, culturally passionate about understanding everyone around me. But gosh, I don't, I have to say, speak your truth, be who you are, be kind to others. That's take it day by day, right? Like I said before, be open to change, right? They always say that Taurans are very stubborn and we don't like change. Well, I find to be complete opposite to that. Like I almost crave change in a way where I'm like, I hate to say this, but I crave it because I want to know what's going to happen and I want to have control over it, but I can't. But, I'm constantly doing things to sort of nurture that part of my life. So, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, really. I mean, that is definitely got to be the best advice I could give anyone. Don't step out of it. Go ahead and step out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid. It'll bring amazing things. Um, and yeah, that's what I have for you, world.
That is the best advice that anyone can give anyone who's, seeking a deeper understanding, because you won't fully understand yourself if you don't step outside of your comfort zone. And you know what, we can't predict the future. Their psychics can say that they know and they see, but I think that everybody has that ability, that intuitive ability to have a vision of what their future might look like, but you'll never know how it's going to unfold if you don't take risks, if you don't take action on that vision of what you see in your mind. And that's the beauty about creation and even being a creative, is that we are visionaries, and we, like, our mind, I know for myself, like my mind just goes buck wild.
But you know what? I feel like there's also a pressure behind a vision and having a vision. It should be more organic than that. Like, don't say, I need to have a vision and I need to go after it and I need to serve my purpose. Take it day by day. Don't step into the deep end. Like, go in slowly, like every day. You wake up one day and say, I'm just going to try this random little something that's different than you usually do. and see where that leads, right? It shouldn't be something that causes you stress. Do it
Absolutely.
organically. Let the earth sort of speak to you in a sense without sounding like super granola. But I just feel like let's take that pressure off the vision and the purpose and just make good choices every day, no matter how big or how little. Make good choices that are led with love, compassion, considering the people around you, considering what you're passionate about. That's what we need to do. Stress be
Absolutely.
gone. Stress be gone.
Stress began. And you know what, even one of the things that, and I'll ask you this too, but one of the things that really shifted for me last year was being mindful about my vocabulary and not really provoking or manifesting what I'm speaking, including the word anxiety, because I actually have
We talked
struggled with.
about this. You're
Yeah,
right.
I struggled with anxiety for a majority of my life. And as I went through my transformation and even shed a lot of the weight, because I've gone through a major physical transformation and internal. And you know, transformation is a mind, body, and spiritual connection. It's not just one component. And so anxiety, there's a misconception, and oftentimes people will sedate with pharmaceuticals or just like try to distract. But I want to really challenge people when using this word anxiety to switch it to more of a
Rephrase it. Yeah,
phrase it to I'm sensitive, because we are, and we feel everything that
that's
goes around.
true. That's a very good
Time
point.
we're not in tune with it, right? We're not really
Right.
tuned. And when we take on and implement um grounding practices, and it's going to look very different for everyone, because my grounding practices are not going to look like yours, especially
Right.
because you have a family, you have a child, there's a lot of things that you have to incorporate aside from that. But you know, allowing yourself to trust that the sensitivities that you're feeling are just information. It's telling you that you need to maybe do something different or tune in a little bit deeper to yourself so that you know where that is coming from. And when we're able to really tap into that, we can really start to make adjustments that are going to be more in alignment with what we need to be doing on a consistent basis. I like to say that the things are unfolding second by second, minute by minute. And that
Absolutely.
although we do have a vision and we see, you know, this big picture, it really does take that step by step that's going to allow that big vision to unfold.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that alone takes the pressure off. Oh my God, what's my vision? Oh my God, what's my purpose? Right? Just that second by second, minute by minute. So you hit the nail on the head. Okay, as ridiculous as this is gonna sound, I do have a 1 o'clock meeting, so we're gonna have to cut it soon. I don't mind being late because it's just our team meeting. So whatever. I can just be like, hey guys, I was on a podcast. I mean, like, sorry, but not sorry,
Oh, this
right?
is actually perfect. It was the last question. So, any finishing statements that you would like to add before we end this call?
Yes, I want to add that one thing that I haven't said in this whole thing is that I have fucking changed my life by going to acupuncture. I know that just seems so random to throw in there, but you were just talking about medicine and people relying on that stuff. And I have to say that it has legit changed my life. I mean, I was going through some like migraine, like dizziness, losing my speech, shit that was not fun. And I've been doing it for a little bit, I want to say for over a year now, and it has literally been the miracle that I've been seeking. I do not have to take migraine medicine at all. My GP is personally very proud of me. She said so herself. That I've seeked out, an alternative medicine to help me through. So I just want to say, guys, like, again, explore shit that you've never thought you would do. Maybe it seems a little bit crazy, and maybe it is, and maybe it's a mental thing, but you know what? I'm okay with that because it makes me happy. I feel good. Julia is incredible. I go to Equilibrium Health in the South Loop, and she's incredible. I absolutely recommend her, and it covers by my insurance. So for those of you scared of the price, it's only $20 a session with your insurance once you get your deductible down. Okay, so there you go. That's my
Right.
final statement. This is super fun, Becky. I can't thank you enough for inviting me. I hope people found this entertaining. I hope you guys take something out of it. If you don't, maybe you'll just follow me on my Instagram and I'd be so grateful with that. CJO Art. Um,
Yes,
and
yes.
hopefully we can do this more often. I also noticed that on this Zoom it says Violet Serrato. That's because she does e-learning and she's clearly taken over my iPad. So that's why it says that, but that's my kid. But again, Becky, this was, I can't even thank you enough. This was so fun. This is so cool. I'm so freaking proud of you. I can't believe you're doing your thing and you're fucking looking amazing doing it.
Thank you so much.
Um, and yeah, thank you. I love you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
And I am so grateful again. This was an honor because you guys got to, be a part of the reconnection that Crystal and I had firsthand, because this is the first time that I'm seeing her face to face. Well, obviously not in person, but through video, which I feel is even more, prominent with the energy exchange that we're having. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to reconnect with people that are in alignment with what I'm doing, what they're doing. And I'm so excited about these conversations that are going to continue to inspire and uplift our humanity, because these are important conversations that need to be had every single day. And I'm honored. I am so grateful that you chose to be a part of this platform, that whoever is going to watch today, tomorrow, in the near future, next year, in the next 10 years, whatever the case may be, that you are blessed by these conversations. I am so grateful again, and I will see you soon. Thank you and peace out.
Bye, Beck.
Bye. Wait, wait, wait.